Did you know there's a way to earn up to 6% of interest on your money right now with some of the safest and well-balanced ETFs out there? Honestly, I just got pretty tired of chasing bank promotions and keep on moving my money from Simply to Tangerine, from Tangerine to Simply, back and forth every time one of them announces a better interest rate on their high interest savings account. And annoyingly enough, these promotions only last a couple of months. I think the best one was like 5 months. Tracking promos and moving money back and forth is a tremendous waste of time. So I finally decided to invest my money in a high interest savings ETF instead of playing catch up with big banks all the time. You'll be surprised to learn that some ETF pay more than any high interest savings account or even GIC in Canada, while also giving you flexibility because you don't have to lock in your money for a year as you would typically do with a GIC. Plus, you can save on taxes by keeping your ETFs in your TFSA. Just to clarify, I'm not being paid by any of the management companies or banks. It is only my personal perspective based on long research and comparison of different financial tools available for Canadians, and not financial advice. I've put many hours of research into this, so please be that amazing person who likes this video right off the bat and subscribe to that channel right now. I would really appreciate it. I'm trying to get to the first 1,000 and I'm very close. Anyways, with the stock market being so unpredictable these past 2 years, I can see why so many people are hesitant to invest in individual stocks and prefer safer alternatives. So we have two kinds of ETF, for high interest savings and for growth, sometimes with good dividends as well, which I'm going to cover in this video. As you probably know, high interest and broad market ETF have quite a few advantages compared to individual stocks. They are way less risky and you can get a high interest rate that beats any bank's HISA rate, which is high interest savings accounts. Especially when you're new to the world of investing and just don't feel comfortable dealing with individual stocks just yet. Let's start with one of the best high interest saving ETFs in Canada. At the time of the recording, it offered almost 5.5% of annual interest. And I'm talking about Cash.TO. This ETF is pretty popular among Canadian investors who want to get maximum interest on their money in a passive way. It's also considered extremely safe because it limits its own investments to cash accounts and federally chartered banks. The management fees, or MER, is also quite low at 0.11%. Not the lowest out there, but still quite decent. Interest is paid out on a monthly basis, so your savings can compound over time. It doesn't matter when you buy, and you can also sell it at any time you want and collect the dividend earned. It's not an issue, you don't have to time it at any point. Also, you won't be paying any tax if you're keeping it in your TFSA, which is the way I do it personally, because any dividend interest earned in Canada, you still have to pay taxes on it unless it's in TFSA. At the moment, Cash.TO offers higher interest rate than any savings account from big banks in Canada, which is why I recommend this. Well, I actually should correct myself and mention something. Simply just offered 6% of interest rate on their savings account, but again, it's just a short promotion designed to make you move their money to Simply, and then, in a couple of months it will drop to like 0.15% of interest or whatever, which is like super funny. And all this hassle doesn't really worth 0.5% of interest in my opinion, but you do you. The only downside is that the ETFs don't have the deposit protection like banks do. But it is highly unlikely anything will happen with this ETF, since Cash.TO keeps their deposits in big Canadian banks, as I already mentioned, like CIBC, Scotiabank and National Bank. Now, I would like to mention the Wealthsimple CASH account. I've been using it for quite some time now. It's great for e-transfers, it has this funny animation of money being sent, and everyday purchases because it gives you 1% cash back on any purchase you make, both in-store and online, and it gives you 4% of annual interest on your cash as of July this year. Before that, you needed $100,000 to get 4% of interest, otherwise it was 3%. Now it is 4% for everyone, and the money is insured up to $300,000, unlike the ETF. It's not as good as 5.5% in Cash.TO, but it's still the best alternative available to Canadians right now, which beats any bank's HISA account because it's not a short-term promotion like Tangerine or Simply, but an actual permanent rate. Of course, the rates might change, increase or decrease in the future, but I think for the following years it will be at 4% or more pretty much consistently for your cash. Enough for HISAs for now. I would like to tell you about my personal favorite growth ETF that I've carried in my portfolio since 2020, which grew by almost 40% since then. It's actually two different ETFs that are actually the same. It's funny, VFV and VOO. The fun part is that it's the exact same fund managed by Vanguard, which tracks the S&P 500 index and is fully invested in over 500 US stocks, mostly large and mid-cap companies. Think Amazon, Google, AMD, Nvidia, and the like. The reason why I have both is because in the beginning of my investing journey, I was buying VFV. But then years later, I learned that VOO is the exact same thing, but it charges less fees and has better dividend yield. VFV is the exact same fund. In Canada, they just buy VOO and repackage it into VFV for the Canadian market, for the convenience of buying in Canadian dollars, while charging triple the fees at 0.09%, and it also has reduced dividend with a yield of 1.29% compared to 1.59% VOO offers. Whew, I really tried to cover it fast. I hope you understood everything. I'm really sorry if I was talking too fast. If I was, let me know in the comments. I will slow it down for the next video. Anyways, both are great ETF for long-term growth, and since they mostly consist of tech stocks, they're likely to experience higher returns compared to more traditional ETF on the market if the economic recovery goes well. However, if the market tumbles like it did last year, both VFV and VOO might take a serious hit. So I would call it a riskier option compared to my other selections, which are, my first two options actually have no risk at all, especially Wealthsimple CASH. Cash.TO has maybe super low side risk, like what could happen with one of the biggest ETF on the Canadian market. But compared to those two, this one is actually risky. I'm talking about VOO, because in short term it could drop significantly, but it also could increase by a lot. So if you have a good risk tolerance like I do, I would buy lots of VOO. If not, then stick to high interest savings account and maybe like more safer ETF. So if you're looking for a more stable solution with lower risks, I would advise going with ZSN or VCE. Let me tell you a bit about both before we wrap things up for today. VCE ETF, also managed by Vanguard, is heavily invested in Canadian banks and natural resources companies, with 2.5% of dividend yield and super low management fees. The Canadian banks have recently taken some serious beating, as you probably all noticed, especially CIBC, and no doubt will recover at some point, which will likely reflect on VCE performance. I expect it to deliver and outperform next year, considering it's been very slow this year so far. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. That's it.